It's another day at Popcorn Recap. If you're feeling bluer than usual, you might as well watch this recap. After all, there's nothing a good psychological thriller film couldn't fix. Plus, you'd get to see the young Mia Wasikowska pleasure herself in the shower. The movie is called Stoker, and it starts with a young woman called India Stoker exiting a vehicle and walking toward a field of hay. She glances at the grass while her voiceover speaks about her keen senses. India then sits with her mother as they listen to the priest's eulogy of her late beloved father. Following the burial ceremony, India silently listens to the maids chat about the terrible situation that resulted in her father's death. Do all the housekeepers gossip like this? The answer is yes. Then, the housekeeper appears, preventing the other staff from gossiping. The housekeeper then inquires as to if India has found her gift for her 18th birthday. India remembers the gift, and inside is a key. At their home's memorial celebration, the mother introduces India to her father's attractive younger brother, nicknamed Mr. Charming. Mr. Charming meets India, but his niece, who has never met him before, refuses to talk to him. India is laying on her bed, surrounded by gift boxes containing her childhood shoes. Meanwhile, the mother keeps her brother-in-law entertained by showing him images and anecdotes about her late husband and daughter. Back downstairs, India studies her uncle discreetly and avoids him whenever he is there. Mr. Charming, on the other hand, manages to capture India seated on the stairwell's edge. India stares at her uncle and remarks on how much he resembles her father. Mr. Charming expresses his sympathy, to which India responds that her father's passing is a loss for both of them. Mr. Charming makes no reply and assures India that he will remain with them for the time being. The next day, when India walks across their expansive garden, she observes her uncle and the housekeeper bickering inside the maid's quarters. India listens as the housekeeper talks about how she has been Mr. Charming's eyes and ears since he was a child. The housekeeper then refuses to continue serving Mr. Charming. Later that day, the mother searches for the housekeeper but is unsuccessful. India notifies her mother that she has not seen the housekeeper in many hours. They think that the old housekeeper has gone AWOL, but hey, maybe she'll reappear later in the movie. Soon after, the mother encourages her daughter to relax outside, but India coldly responds that other cultures spend years mourning their deceased loved ones before distressing. Well, she has a point. The mother rejects India's responses while still persuading her to go out. Her mother describes how her daughter used to spend her entire days with her late father, and begs India to spend the day with her just once. However, India stays unimpressed, and her mother instead goes out with her uncle. When she is alone, India sneaks up to her uncle's bedroom and digs through his possessions. India discovers a leather pouch containing her uncle's IDs and documents, a Ray-Ban, a toy gun, and a present. She is surprised to discover the same box inside her uncle's travel bag that her father used to give her on her previous birthday. She attempts to open it, but her mother and uncle appear unexpectedly. The mother then summons her daughter, so India goes downstairs to tidy her uncle's possessions and finds her mother and uncle drinking wine. The mother tells her daughter that her uncle brought her ice cream. The mother then searches for the housekeeper once more, and her daughter informs her that she too has not seen the maid. The mother, perplexed, wonders how they will eat later because she is not a good chef. Mr. Charming then offers to make supper and asks his niece to freeze the ice creams. After tasting her brother-in-law's cuisine that night, the mother recalls how her late husband used to prepare for her. Mr. Charming then respectfully inquires about her life, but the mother declines since she does not know where to begin. Then he mentions how his brother used to talk about family, which irritates the mother, so she excuses herself. Mr. Charming assures India that he wishes for them to be friends, but she responds that it is unnecessary because they are already family. Another good point. The bullies make indecent pictures of India the next day in her art class, but she rejects them and continues to sketch. India notices females crowding around her after class, and she discovers her charming uncle standing against his car, waiting for her. India, on the other hand, refuses to recognize his presence and goes to board the school bus. However, the persistent uncle secretly follows her until she securely enters the house. This happens on a daily basis, but India always refuses her uncle. Then, on a rainy day after school, India discovers her mother too close to her uncle near the piano. Her mother and uncle go out to play tennis the next day. Her uncle informs India that he stole her father's belt before departing with the mother. Later that day, the family is surprised by an unwelcome visitor, Mr. Charming's aunt. At the dinner, the aunt quietly expresses her anxiety about her nephew living with the family. The aunt then reminds the mother that she has to speak with her regarding her nephew's stay as soon as possible, but the mother disappointingly refuses. After dinner, the aunt discreetly gives India her phone number and departs for the motel. The aunt, on the other hand, changes hotels owing to unexplainable worry and mistrust about her nephew. She then finds her phone is stolen and attempts to contact the hotel for assistance. However, the hotel service is terrible. The aunt then walks to a phone booth to contact India, but her nephew interrupts her call. Mr. Charming informs his aunt that he phoned the cab company to see whether she arrived at the hotel, but they informed him that she had gone to another. He then enters the booth and strangles his aunt with a belt to death. At the same time, India discovers the body of the housekeeper inside the freezer. Super frozen geriatric meat. Mr. Charming waits for his niece in her class the next day, but India leaves through the back door when she sees him. There, she encounters the bullies, who make fun of her mother and uncle's unsuitable relationship. This catches India's attention, so she uses a pencil to puncture the bully's hand. Just in time, another young guy enters, scaring the bullies away before they can damage her. The young guy apologizes for their actions, but India immediately departs. The next night, India observes her mother seducing her uncle. India leaves the house after seeing her mother and uncle's improper conduct toward one another, India visits a nearby cafe where she meets a young man from her school. They travel into the woods, where India begins a bold move on the young man, forcefully biting his lips until they bleed. Instead of making him angry, her actions incite the young man to the point where he attempts to take advantage of her. Mr. Charming then appears out of nowhere to assist his niece. Mr. Charming urges his niece to vengeance after tying the young man's hand behind his back, so India glances down and kicks the young man repeatedly till he begs her to stop. They then return home quietly as if they haven't murdered a man. India then showers, enjoys herself, and reflects on what happened after she thrashed the young man. Her uncle brutally breaks the young man's neck with her father's belt, and India finds this amusing and arousing. And as her uncle is burying the body in the garden, India dials her aunt's phone number, and she hears the phone ringing beneath. India later discovers that her uncle is a killer. Girl, aren't you too late for that? India then goes to her mother and politely questions her about why she was kissing her uncle. Despite being caught in the act, the mother disputes her daughter's claim and assures India that her father's office would be cleaned up tomorrow. India takes the initiative the next day to tidy her father's workplace. India discovers a locked drawer while searching through her father's stuff and realizes that the key she received for her birthday belongs to it. When India opens the drawer, she discovers childhood photos of her father, uncle, and another boy. She looks at the images and finds that her father has two younger brothers, one of whom she has never met. She also discovers scores of letters from her uncle throughout the years detailing his travels and aspirations to see her. But then she realizes that the letters are all addressed to Crawford Institute, a psychiatric institution. India calls the police but then changes her mind, so she hangs up, opting to handle uncle herself. India confronts her uncle, beginning with the Ray-Ban sunglasses he is wearing. She claims that her father used to wear those glasses when driving, and they would have melted along with the car in his accident. Mr. Charming, when cornered, reveals his horrible crimes to his own siblings, beginning with their younger brother. His elder brother, India's father, used to play a lot with their younger brother, which fueled his jealousy. So he planned to murder him by burying him alive in a sandbox in order to draw India's father's attention to him. He was then sent to a psychiatric facility, where he remained for over 2 decades awaiting India's 18th birthday. Mr. Charming was then let out of the institution by India's father, who handed him a vehicle, money, and an apartment in New York on the condition that he keep away from his family. Mr. Charming was deceived and upset, so he beat him up with a car and faked his death to seem like a car accident. The revelation shocks and angers India, but her uncle stays unaffected and reminds her that he has come to give her a gift. Mr. Charming brings out the box from his travels and opens it. The package comprises a pair of stiletto heels. He claims it's to make her more of a lady and to replace her juvenile saddle shoes. A doorbell rings soon after disturbs them. The sheriff questions India about the disappearance of the young guy. According to him, India was the last person seen with the young man, according to several witnesses. India takes the situation calmly and lies to the sheriff, while her uncle offers an alibi for her. Mr. Charming attempts to get personal with her when the sheriff departs and tells her that he wants her to accompany him to New York. India appears to forgive her uncle and decides to accompany him. The mother then abruptly exits her room and watches the two getting too close to each other. Filled with rage, the mother proclaims her wish to see her daughter suffer for betraying her. India, on the other hand, stays unaffected. So the mother departs and invites her brother-in-law to her chamber. The mother addresses the uncle about her concerns. She claims she knew something was wrong from the start. She realized that only a family would make her husband drive miles away since he didn't want to be apart from his kid. She also claims that she was aware he was in a mental hospital. The mother then offers herself in order for her daughter to be protected. Mr. Charming, on the other hand, responds that his niece is of the age to make her own judgments. He then seduces the mother, who falls into his trap. So Mr. Charming takes advantage of her frailty and strangles his mother with his brother's belt. He then summons his niece to witness her mother in pain, and India obliges. India, on the other hand, enters the room with a shotgun and kills her uncle in the neck. The mother glances at her daughter with horror in her eyes, while India looks inexpressibly at the dead body. India then buries the body in the garden and drives away in her uncle's vehicle. After that, the sheriff pulls India over for speeding. When the officer asks why she is rushing, India respectfully says that she wants to draw his attention. Finally, India stabs the sheriff with a pair of pruning shears. The video concludes with the officer fleeing to the hayfield while still holding his wound, and India following him and killing him with her shotgun.